Welcome back, Rage Nation. We'll wait for this to get started up. Make sure everything looks good on the stream. On the stream. And of course the card looks backwards. All right, well, I guess I'm going to have to figure that out. So I have no idea why this is flipping backwards on it. Wonder if I rotate it. Nope. All right. Well, we're going to go to plan B. Plan B, pulling up the cards on the thing. Thought I had it, and just not quite. But welcome back, Rage Nation. We're going to go ahead and talk about Colette today. So while we are getting this resituated, because, yeah, reasons. It's so annoying. Okay, so let's close out that. We're going to talk about Colette. Now, I am specifically going to talk about Colette 1 because I think that Colette 2 is going to see most of the play in Gaining Grounds 4. But I did want to talk about Colette 1 because I feel like she's been kind of forgotten about just because of how efficient Smuggler title is. Let's see here. Let's go to... Oh no, let's go to Bigger Hat. Give Bigger Hat some love. Performer. All right. And then let's go ahead and make sure this is pulling up on OBS. Sorry once again, this... a little annoying. We'll get it though. All right, let's see what this looks like. Go live. One sec, guys. So once again, while I'm kind of waiting just to make sure this gets caught up, picking Colette 1 specifically, just because I feel like she needs to see some more play. She's pretty solid. One sec. AFK. I think we're ready to rock and roll here, guys. Sorry, I had to check to make sure that my son was sleeping and not prowling the night. All right, so let's finally get into this. So I want to talk about Colette 1 once again, just because I think the smuggler sees a lot of play. Plus, I want to talk about kind of how I've been using the keyword and just kind of generally how I've been finding it. And yeah, we're just going to go from there. Hopefully y'all can get something out of this. I've been doing these kind of reactions just to see, just give people ideas about how to play this, right? So Colette 1 has a lot going on. She did get nerfed. I think the biggest reason she got nerfed was probably because of Sword Trick. Sword Trick used to be, I want to say it was like 3, 4, 5 damage instead of just 3 damage. So you could really kind of spike, and it was kind of one of those things that was hard to avoid. It just seemed too good to just do 5 damage. So, and it buries you. So the big thing with Colette 1 is she is about displacing. And I think that's why she's a good difference between her and the smuggler title. Smuggler title is just very action efficient, interacting, getting the birds into position just to interact as much as you can. This version is about placement, meaning you're going to displace your opponent and you're going to place your models. And the cool thing is when you do presto changeo, you also put scheme markers out. So not only are you getting an advantage by switching models, you're also getting an advantage by putting scheme markers out where you need to. So for example, in protected territory, not only can you put down a scheme marker to kind of, move a model, you can also potentially move an enemy model out of the area. So you basically pick one performer within 8 of Colette and the target. It could be Colette. And then you switch those models and it puts a scheme marker down. So it's pretty good. You can summon mechanical doves off that too. The doves are often used as beacons for presto changeo. So that way you can move the dove. Your opponent sees now it's within 8. So they have a decision. They can either move a model, they can kill the dove, but if they kill the dove, you draw a card. So that doesn't feel bad at all. This version of Colette also puts out a lot of conditions, mostly stunned and distracted. So her melee is a 2-inch reach, which is awesome. So she can really muck things up for people trying to interact. And she has Don't Mind Me, so she doesn't care if she's engaged. But putting out stunned, distracted, stat 7 against willpower can possibly do 3 damage or either just make them pitch cards. Really good. She has a little bit of an unpack, but I often find most of the time, even turn 1, I'm doing Sword Trick. And I'll talk about some of the cool combos with that here shortly. So her also fadeaway trigger and then showstopper. So she can bury herself with a tome. And then when she activates, she can pop up either through a performer or a friendly scheme marker. And then she pulses out distracted. So it's pretty cool as well. And then if you have distracted and you activate, you're going to get stunned if you're within 4 of Colette. So really good. Sword Trick, I use this not only on my opponents, I often just use it on my own models. Because think about how often in this gaining grounds, people are putting scheme markers down turn 1 to start planning. Well, now you can bury, say, I don't know, a Colette Duet, and all of a sudden that scheme marker they put in their backfield is now going to be a beacon for the Colette Duet if it's buried with Sword Trick to pop up through. So just pretty nasty combos you can get there. False Reality, I'm not getting a ton of play with that with Colette 1. It's not as good as Presto Changeo. I guess the only time I would do False Reality is if I wanted to put slow on a model, or if I didn't have the card to guarantee Presto Changeo against an opponent, or even on my own models. I could False Reality to just place them 2 inches, which I guess in a pinch could do something. But I find I don't bring a lot of the stuff that puts distracted out. Some of the models I've been bringing are Carlos, which he puts a little bit out. Cassandra, once again, a little bit. And then I've tried Shadow Lark. Meh. Overview Duet doesn't really put a ton out. And then, yeah, that's kind of it, right? So, let's see here. Oh, Sword Trick used to. So I like reading the errata history on the right side. Apparently, it used to be reduced. It used to be 3 inches instead of 2. It's interesting. They reduced the showstopper range. Illusionist range got reduced from 6 to 4. Okay. Dang, that used to be pretty good. Change from TN 13 in masks to 14. Friendly model must be a performer. Yeah, that kind of sucks. Sometimes with Presto Changeo, you want to switch out to a model that's non-performer, but you can't do that. So if I want to switch an enemy model, I can't switch the enemy model with, say, a Gearling. I have to switch it with basically a performer model. So, which could be Colette once again, so that's not bad. She used to be move 6, which I definitely feel that move 5 seems a little slow with her. Okay. So I really like Colette. I've been doing a lot of tricks with her. Turn 1, I've been burying the Choreography Duet and then popping it up near my enemy's deployment zone, or if they put down a ski marker. If they don't put down a ski marker and I get to Colette's activation, I basically sword trick, but with the mass trigger to bury Colette. That way, turn 2, she's ready to go. Because otherwise, you got to unbury your model in your deployment zone, and that never feels good, right? So let's talk about let's just talk about the Choreography Duet, right? Because this is kind of the big one. Where are you? There it is. So the Choreography Duet, I honestly, even if you have good tech against the Choreography Duet, I still feel like I'm going to bring it just because it's a beast of a model, even if I'm too scared to go into your crew because maybe you have irreducible or you're ignoring armor or something. I can still just get ridiculous mobility with this model because you can get a double activation out of it, right? So if you don't know the trick, you can go with the Choreography Duet, split apart. One of those models is then considered to be activated, and the other one's not. So then you go, okay, next activation, I'm going to activate the second one. I'm going to dance back together. And then when I dance back together, I can now activate as a Choreography Duet for a second time. So as long as your opponent doesn't kill one or kidnap one, you can get the double activation. So usually you do that when you know your opponent's either out of activations or you're in a safe enough spot where they can't really get to you without basically getting themselves out of position. It's got a stat 7 attack, defense 7. If you attack defense against the Choreography Duet, you're probably not going to kill this thing because, defense 7 is really good. It can just walk away from you, has Blade Rush. It's a good model. Got crit strike, stat 7, 245. So if you got a high ram, that becomes, even a mid ram, honestly, because if you have a 10 rams, that's a 17. That's still hitting most models, even with a decent card. So crit strike's good. Makes that a 3, 5, 6 attack. You can put out distracted. I don't get that very often. But when you do, it's nice because that helps Colette out. Because remember, something that we don't see, and we'll go back to Colette here in a second, because that's pretty much, and execute, of course. But the big thing with Colette that I think could be good if I leaned into the distracted kind of more is there is a sweet trigger called Bewilder. And it's only enemy because I think if you didn't, you could just put distracted on your own stuff and draw a crap ton of cards. But you can reduce their distracted condition to draw cards, right? So draw cards equal to the value of the distracted, and then you just draw that many cards and the condition. So if they're distracted 2, 3, you can draw 2, 3 cards, which seems fine. It's just, I find, I don't know, and you can comment to this, guys. Do you think that there is a build that you can put distracted out a lot with Colette because I don't find it too often. I often find that I am just not putting out as much distracted as I feel like she would. And I'm going to go back to OBS real quick. I'm just going to slide that up. There we go. Okay. So the doves, mechanical doves. So the doves, I think, are better in Colette 1, or Colette 2, sorry, the smuggler, because she can interact through them and scheme through them. But with Colette 1, the doves are more beacons of where I want to switch models out. That's the way I've been using them. I don't even worry about blowing them up. The only time I look at blowing them up is if, like I played against Hamlin, just pulsing out 2 damage. I think that's pretty solid because you just kill a bunch of rats, right? Which might not be good because you might have your opponent draw a bunch of cards just for that overheat trigger. But there's other models that are like 2 hit points and you can just kill it. So I do keep an eye out for that. But most of the time, you're just flying them into position. If you're playing Gearlings, I'll use them early on to concentrate, to give Gearlings and J5 a focus when they synchronize. And they just, because remember, with the Gearlings, J5 and Harrison, whenever somebody gains a condition within 6, you get to gain that condition once per turn on, once per activation on the Gearlings. So really good, and mechanical doves are just good for easily getting to focus on your stuff. But that's pretty much all they do, right? And then you can use them as soul stones. So I have done that with Colette as well to reduce damage. And when they die, they draw you a card. You can summon more of these, so it's not a big deal when they die. It does hurt your activation control a little bit, I've noticed. Especially today, I was playing against my buddy who was playing Jackdaw 2 in Sorcelled. And he did a good job one turn of killing like 1 or 2 of these. And then that really killed kind of my activation. So you do want to kind of activate these early just so you don't get down on the activation control, right? Because if you lose all 3 of them in one turn before they activate, that can just be detrimental. So I try to make it where my opponents have to go out of their way to kill these things, because it's like, okay, if they have to go back to get a dove and they have to waste like an action and they have to waste a card, that's great. And I've had it at times where I'll use a focus on the dove and I flip like a 12 and they're like, I can't beat that because maybe they don't have a high enough card. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, now you've wasted an action. Are you going to waste another one? Like, how much are you going to dedicate to killing these things? So you really want your opponents to go out of their way to go after these 3 doves. So just kind of keep that in mind as you kind of go. Let's see here. So let's talk about some more of these models. I'll talk about the ones I always brought. Obviously, the Corfy I always bring. Carlos is one that I usually bring as well, especially if I'm bringing the Gearlings, because Fiery Presence, when you activate, you just give burning to the Gearlings. Carlos is like BFFs with Gearlings because he just really turns them on, and you can just bully a flank with him and the Gearlings, scheme-wise. Carlos can fight off some lower threats, and the Gearlings are usually tough enough that they can kind of defend themselves. So they really do pair up well if you are in that Gearling camp. I know some people think people bring them too much, but they're good. I'll definitely look at the Gearlings here in a minute because you could almost always bring them with Colette and you do pretty well. Obviously, Don't Mind Me. Don't Mind Me is so big in this Gaining Grounds. I've had it, and once again, my buddy Brian today, he was like, oh, I'm going to put these down for Ensnared. I'm like, cool, I'm just going to pop Colette in with Presto Changeo and interact for pick those up, so now you can't score your Ensnare point. Same thing, Carlos has it too. Just pick them up. It's good to go. What else do we have with him? Really, besides his attacks, Dance of the Flame, he gains a burning with his bonus action to move 5. So essentially, you can really scoot this guy down the board. I mean, turn 1, a lot of times, I'm just moving him twice and then doing his bonus. So, I mean, you're moving, what, 17 inches a turn with him if you really want, plus butterfly jump if they really want to start giving more mobility. So I like Carlos a lot. He's really solid. I almost always bring him. I would recommend it, definitely. Even Colette 1, he's great. Let's see here. Cassandra I don't always bring. I'll pop her up here in a second. We'll go back because that's some of those words. That looks like a lot of words. Let's see, we already did the Corfu Duet. I guess I'll go to Cassandra. I bring her a lot of times. I bring her definitely always with Smuggler, just because Upstage is so good. I think I'd also bring her with one in situations like using the Corfu Duet's tactical action to heal. I think model 2 or 3 points. I would copy that to heal the Corfu at times. One thing I do like is that when your models get in trouble with Colette, you can just presto changeo them out of trouble, and then Colette's in the middle of it, right? And Colette is so just dang hard to deal with when she's in the middle of it. I'll go back to her card real quick. So the reason why you put her in there is because she has serene continence, so you're going to be at a negative unless you do something about that. And she just does presto changeo, just be like, cool, this model is like 8+ inches now out of trouble, and now you have to deal with Colette. And if you swing into Colette, so let's say you even get a positive to get around serene continence, you can then just be like, I'm going to spend a stone or cheat in a mask, a tome, and then you get the fadeaway trigger. So even if you swing into Colette, she can just be like, cool, now I'm buried. And then you're just sitting there like, okay, I don't have the model I was trying to kill. I can't go into Colette. So really, unless they attack your size or move, you're going to fade away. It's worth the stone to do it, just to have your opponent waste actions. Reducing 2 damage and burying is fantastic. Obviously, you might not bring this version of Colette or play her very differently. If you go against anything that can attack burying, like Guild, if they play Lady J specifically, Terra, even Outcast, because if they suss out that you're going to play the first Colette, they might just bring some anti-bury tech just for the fun of it. But I will say you don't have to bury stuff with this version of Colette. You can just presto changeo and bury your opponent's stuff and just do your attack, just put out stun and distract. And she moves around plenty enough without burying her stuff. So even if my opponent did bring like some bury tech, I still wouldn't be too scared to bring Colette. You just would have to play her differently. So that's one thing that I just kind of thought about as I talked that out. I don't ever bring Angelica. She just seems like a lot of times she dies. Get off stage is okay, but you got to win. I'm going to try her, though. I'll give her a fair shake. Give them an encore seems okay. So I think I could try her, but I think the shockwave's kind of cute, especially the not a bomb trigger. Puts out distracted. I guess that's fine. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. So she's fine, I guess. Shadow Lark's actually more interesting to me than Angelica, and she's actually the same amount of points. So Disguise is fine, Diving Charge is fine, Don't Mind Me is great. The repository on this and Blackbird, I actually kind of really like. I don't know if I like it enough to bring them often, but the reason I like it is because, one, you cycle a card, so you can get rid of a crap card, draw hopefully a better one. But Thief's Pocket is really cool, right? The bonus action to discard either from your repository or your hand, which most times you're going to do, the repository with Colette. And you just drop a Scheme Marker into base contact. I use Shadow Lark more for scheming. I haven't played around with the Blade or Surprise Shot yet too much. 2, 4, 5 seems like good damage, especially with Execute. Shadow Jump seems insane in certain situations. Haven't gotten it to work yet, but I think it can. So I'm going to try her out again. I'm going to try to be a little more aggressive to see if I can get the attacks to go. But to be fair, the last game I played her, I used her for sweating bullets. No, I used her for, yeah, I did use her for sweating bullets. And I didn't want to do anything because the model I was attacking, Ban Ying, had a defensive trigger. So I was like, I need to just go and sit there. So I did. And I scored the point. So it worked out well. And then I got out of there and tried to deny a back point, and then I died. So really solid model. Can put out distracted. So this may be something where I feel like you could maybe start playing on that distracted synergy. The distracted synergy that I think might do better is this Blackbird model. So Blackbird has the same thing. I actually think this is a good option for magical training. I was kind of impressed with it. It's good enough to keep away from the scrum. It doesn't need to be interacting too much with your crew, so you can really spread out with it, right? This doesn't have to sit next to anything. But the big thing is it has Thief's Pocket as well. You can cycle a card as well with Repository. Set the scene's interesting. So I think you could start dropping a bunch of scheme markers off that, because whenever distracted goes down on an enemy model within 6, you can drop a scheme into base contact with it. I think if you're that close with this model, it probably just dies though. So, and it has get off stage, which is fine. It doesn't come up all the time though. Actually, probably won't come up hardly at all. But I think this model's better staying away and then using Thief's Pocket to try and just scheme. Just try and get the backline stuff, scheme a little bit. I think that's what this wants to be doing. Ballots, I felt like this was really good because I just kind of stayed back. I voted. Thief's Pocket, voted one more time, started taking off, trying to score and set up for end of game points. Spotlight seems fine. Gains distracted. You can give it distracted 2. Triggers are fine. So you could put out a bunch of distracted with this. If I didn't feel like my opponent was trying to be the beatdown, I might do Spotlight and kind of stay a little close to benefit Set the Scene. And it's nice, fine. You're not going to do much with it. You're really just trying to put distracted out at that point if you want to. You don't have Don't Mind Me with this model though, so I feel like you're either doing back scheming or you're really putting out distracted. So I'm going to try this model out more as well. I'm interested in it. It's good enough where I think you can do some stuff with it. I just need reps with it. I only have one game with the Blackbird, but it did solid work. All right, let's go back. What else we've been bringing with Colette 1? Let's see, we did that, did Shadow Lark. Some people play Dorian Crow. I don't see it, man. I'm sorry. There's a list with Dorian Crow and Harada that I'm going to try. I just don't know. I don't know how much this wants to be fighting. Interesting things, more distracted. Boring conversation's always good. Any model that has boring conversation isn't bad in this GG. I just got to try it. I don't know how good it's going to be. It might be terrible. I don't know. Harada, once again, I don't know. He's min 3, which is cool. 2-inch reach, which is cool. But he just dies. Am I going to put Soulstone Cash on this guy to be 11 stones and help out the crew, I guess, that way? Maybe. Got to try it out. I am going to give it a fair shake. I'm pretty dedicated to playing the next 20 games with Performer just to figure out the tech. I don't know when I'm going to try this fighty list, but I am going to try it because his Haka's good. The Crash Against the Waves is good. Obviously, 3-4-5 is fantastic, especially Sweeping Strike. I think you do need to put Soulstone Cash on Harada, though. Otherwise, he just dies. Putting a negative to the willpower with distraction is also good. So once again, he's a good model. I just got to figure out, is that what I want to be doing in certain matchups. And I think there might be a matchup and a pool where that's useful. I just don't know what it is yet. I have not tried that just smash list yet. Let's see here. Minions. Yeah, I think the only minion that I might ever bring is Blackbird. These other ones are just kind of meh. You only bring Corfy when the duet dies. No, I don't bring showgirls. They're pretty awful. Okay, let's talk about why showgirls are not that good. They're fun. They can be solid, but they just die. Right? So they have celebrity. So if you're scheming, you're putting out distracted. Okay, that's something. They just have manipulative. They do have don't mind me, but these models just die. Like they can get one-shotted pretty good. You just take a focus shot into them, they're probably dead. Yeah, lure is fine. So I think the biggest reason why I don't like it is one, they die, and two, they don't have a bonus, right? Like, could we get this model? If the showgirls had a bonus, I think I could get on. Even I tell you what, if their bonus was just agile or whatever it is to do a walk for your bonus action, I think I'd take this model a little more often. Or maybe a bonus to remove a scheme marker or a bonus to drop a scheme marker. I mean, the Blackbirds, I feel, are going to do a little bit more because they have a good bonus. They just drop a scheme marker. They put out distracted. They don't have don't mind me. I wish they did. I kind of wish the showgirls just had a bonus. I think that would make them more playable to me. Yeah. So yeah, weird. Let's do something with that. All right, and let's just talk about the other models that just have been amazing for me specifically. Our J5, I'm not going to go over J5 because, you know, he does what he wants, whatever. But I don't think you bring him all the time with Colette. Are we going to go? Nope. Gear. There we go. So let's talk about these little buggers, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. So gearlings, really solid. The reason why they work great in Performer is Performer puts out conditions, mostly distracted, burning, and stunned. Unwind is great because when you end a condition on this model, you get to take a non-charged general action. So isochronism, you get to get a non-fast condition if a model within 6 gain that condition as well. So this model gains a condition and it gives you 3 AP. It gives you a scheme, or walk scheme, or vote again. You can vote 3 times with this model. You can interact with the cloak and dagger marker. You can do a lot of things, a lot of good things. So they're just good, and they're hard to kill for a 5-stone minion. You get 2 of these. They're 10 stones for a lot of AP. They have a built-in leap, they have a built-in leap aside. So if you whiff on them, they get to place within 3, and since they move out of their activation, they get a shielded then because of automatic movement. So they also ignore terrain, and they ignore models while they're moving. So that's great. And then watch chain is pretty insane. You just pick a piece of terrain with an 8. And you get to push your move towards it. You might trigger a TN with that, with a simple duel. Probably not caring about that. And if you have a mask, so I've found a lot of times when I have a good mask even in hand to take the action again, you can scoot. If I have 2 masks in hand, it's like, oh boy, check this out. So you're ended up moving 10 inches with watch chain twice. If you have 2 masks, you can move 20, and you can move 25 because of unwind. So, I mean, I've had games where I go from like almost corner to corner of the board. It's pretty insane. So these models are just really good. They're good in Colette. They're good in a lot of Arcanist keywords. I mean, they got an errata. I wouldn't be surprised if they got nerfed, though. They're that good. A lot of people bring them. In this GG, they're getting people a ton of VPs. So let's just finish talking about Colette. So Colette Duet. She is in the performer keyword. The first version of this is pretty solid. I still think Smuggler is probably better. You can get more creative with this version of Colette, though, I feel. She puts out a lot more conditions than the other one. And some of it's unresisted, some of it just happens, so you don't even need to flip for it. Presto Changeo is amazing. I have brought her in all these strats. She's good in all of them. Even if you're trying to really hide schemes or hide strat markers, she doesn't care. She can get there. If you're sitting on top of something with a fat model, she can go ahead and just presto changeo you away from it. If you have laugh off or you can't be moved, you have planted roots, she has a bury mechanic, so she can bury you instead of moving you. So there is something for her to do to get rid of the problem. She answers a lot of questions. She's very durable for only having 10 hit points. But she does defend herself very well. There is tech that will kill her. I found out playing against my buddy Lance that attacking her size with Up We Go and then the collision trigger, that felt really bad. The only thing that kind of saved me is Serene Continence. So yeah, it's definitely, she's a good option. I feel like I could play her in Raid the Vaults, like I said. Plant Explosive, she scoots around the board well. She also picks them up. Cloak and Dagger, getting to those is fine. Voting, felt very good voting with her keyword. And I feel like against Guild, and I feel like against crews that have like planted roots in ways like it's hard to move them, she's a very good option. Also, if you know that that crew has problems, I feel like this version's better dealing with problems than the other Colette. The other Colette just kind of runs away and is like, I'm just going to try to outrace you. This one, you can really, I feel, play more denial because you can just move models out of the area. You can bury them and put them when they unbury in next to a scheme marker that doesn't matter. You can stun somebody and distract them to make them pretty much useless. You can pulse out distracted to nerf activations, get rid of focus. So she just has a lot. She's very control-y, right? And in the back of her card, like we were saying, all these things just really cause problems for your opponent. Stat 7 putting out stunned is ridiculous. And distracted 1. And then, oh, by the way, if you got a discard card or take 3 damage, just really good. I've really enjoyed her. And I would just say I'm probably going to play her a lot more. I already know how to use Colette 2. I played her a lot when Carve a Path was the thing. And I'm really focusing on getting Colette 1 reps. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you have played Colette 1. Let me know if you played against it, what your thoughts are. I think she's definitely more interesting than Smuggler. I would say Smuggler is more efficient, but if your opponent's prepared for that and plays well, they can counter that. I don't know if you have a really good Colette 1 player, if you can counter her super well, because she does kind of have an answer for a lot of different things. So let me know what you guys think. If you have some cool lists that you want me to try out for Colette 1, hey, throw it in the comments. And then finally, if you want to support us directly, we got a Patreon. It's at patreon.com/ragequitwire. We appreciate any support. Trying to do more videos for y'all. Been a little bit busy, but I like doing this kind of stuff, so I appreciate it. But until next time, make sure that you guys are flipping cards, flipping tables, and we will see you all later.